It is with great sadness that we announce the passing of John Aielli, the gentle and idiosyncratic narrator of generations of Austinites' morning commutes. He was 76 years old. We're heartbroken to tell you that our beloved friend and colleague John Aielli passed shortly before 8 a.m. this morning, Austin stations KUT and KUTX said in a statement Sunday. He was such a joy to work with, and so important to what KUT and KUTX have become. Aielli had suffered several health setbacks in recent years, including a heart attack in 2012 and a stroke in 2020. As a result, Aielli stepped down from regular on-air duties. In more than half a century with KUT and KUTX, the classically trained baritone and his Eclecticos show eased the city into a new day with everything from classical to classic rock. As a fundraiser for the public radio station, he also acted as a link between listeners and community arts organizations. The station's beloved holiday sing-along at the Capitol was hosted by him for years. The stuff of local legend, however, was Aielli's indelible on-air personality. Former Statesman staff writer Joe Gross captured Aielli's on-air style in a 2012 story. They know he gets close to the mic, that he has a free-ranging mind that can seemingly latch onto any topic and talk about it for 15, 30, 60, 90 seconds at a time, that he loves discussing his rain gauge, that he fears dead air less than anyone else. You're going to hear this side of a freshman on KVRX, that you never completely know what he is going to play or say at any given time. Cincinnati was the birthplace of Aielli in 1946. Jazz musicians were his parents. During World War II, his father, an army man, and mother, a telephone operator, met in a USO in Belton. They used to sing and play together all the time, Aielli said in 2012. Aielli moved to Texas when he was 8, and grew up in Temple Belton, Killeen. Growing up, he was a concert pianist and singer, with a penchant for classical music. Mozart's Requiem was the first classical record he purchased in a grocery store. Aielli said in 2012, "I really have tried to demystify this whole business of classical music. It has nothing to do with rich people's music. I used to diligently wear overalls to classical concerts. Even though he earned a piano scholarship for college, he had to work to pay for room and board. I didn't have any money, so I went back to the Killeen area and looked for a job," Aielli said in 2012 of his transition to college. That led him to radio station KLEN, which put him on the air immediately. "I thought it was going to be a janitor job," Aielli told The Statesman in 1993, "but no, he wanted me to talk on the radio." He was 17 years old and working for 30 cents an hour. To attend the University of Texas, Aielli moved to Austin in 1966. The 40 acres would be his home for most of his professional life. As part of KUT's classical music program, he became a part-time announcer. He earned a master's degree in English. As he told it, an acid trip on the cusp of his entry into a Ph.D. program in the same discipline led him to an awakening. He shifted gears back to music and pursued an education in voice at 24. All the while, he kept working at the public radio station. His 6-hour KUT broadcast, Eclecticos, was born in 1970, according to KUT. The name reflected the host's broad musical sensibilities. He once described it as being designed for the listener who truly listens. In its heyday, Eclecticos ran from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. in 2013. The show moved from KUT to KUTX, as the public radio station split news and music across 2 frequencies. Starting in 2001, the show's runtime began to scale back, eventually filling Austin's car speakers from 9 a.m. to noon. On her first day of work as general manager at KUT and KUTX in 2019, Aielli hugged Debbie Hyatt, "As if we'd been friends for years," she said. "From my point of view, that made sense because he felt like a friend because I'd been listening for years," said Hyatt, who was executive editor of The Statesman before joining the stations. As he did for generations of Austinites, Aielli introduced her to the city when she moved here in the 90s. With his meandering style, laid-back personality and weird curiosity, He seemed to embody the city's vibe, she said. Aielli's style had both fans and critics, and those who probably fell somewhere between. At one point, people might spot bumper stickers that said, "If you don't talk to your kids about John Aielli, who will?" A popular Twitter account, called Shit John Aielli says, dedicated its feed until 2021 to the host's witticisms, musings and non sequiturs. One from 2020. Now, onto my favorite band. Well, except for several others. Another, from 2021. I don't know what your eating habits are, but I wish you luck with whatever you're indulging in. I never read it, but I understand many people find it amusing. Aielli told The Statesman about the Twitter account in 2012. KUTX music director Rick McNulty has a distinct memory of the first time he heard Aielli. It was 1995, and he was scouting Austin. Scanning the radio dial, he landed on KUT, where he heard a new song by Oasis, followed by a song by the Beatles, followed by a very long song with bagpipes, he said. Then this calm, soothing voice came on and methodically strung together the reasons those songs were played back to back, McNulty said. Then the voice went on to discuss the progress of his tomato garden for 10 minutes. So I fell in love with John Aielli and Austin really at the same time. Through his long tenure on the air, Aielli became a celebrity in Austin. Former KUT reporter Joy Diaz arrived at the station in 2005 as its newsroom was still evolving, and Aielli's Eclecticos was at the heart of the NPR affiliate's programming. When she identified herself in the community as a KUT reporter, people invariably wanted to talk about Aielli. Diaz often found herself alone in the old communication building at night while working the weekend desk. The strange sounds floating through the corridors terrified her. Her fears were allayed when she confessed them to a colleague. His vocal exercises were enhanced by the building's acoustics. Diaz and Aielli became close friends as they shared a love of poetry and textiles, silks and velvets they found in thrift stores. The way glass reflected light and color appealed to Aielli. When we moved to the new building, it was full of windows, and so there were rainbows everywhere. We were always catching rainbows, she said. She was touched by the kindness he showed to her two children, occasionally buying them thoughtful gifts on his frequent trips to the thrift store. His thrift store finds were always a big hit with his friends. One time, he bought a mug shaped like a boob for program director Matt Riley, who he called the straightest man he knew. "You have to drink from the nipple," Riley said. Riley arrived at the station in 2008. He came from a regimented commercial radio background. John was commanding a large audience and just doing everything the wrong way. "It was fascinating to watch," Riley said. "It was also fascinating to watch a succession of managers try to rein him in and have zero success. Some would get exasperated or barge in when he was on the air. At one point, Jeff McCord hid the station's copy of the Titanic soundtrack because Aielli played it incessantly. It never worked, in part because Aielli marched to his own drum, but also because the audience loved the free-form nature of the show, the unpredictability of it," Riley said. Part of Aielli's legacy is the many musicians that he championed and loved. They loved him because he was just so honest about how much he enjoyed sharing their music with people, Riley said. When rock icon Robert Plant briefly moved to Austin, he fell in love with Aielli because his show was unique, Riley said. On Sunday, KUTX DJ Jody Denberg posted a photo of Plant and Aielli at the station's studio. Plant asked to meet Aielli, and the veteran DJ came up to the legendary rocker and gently tugged on his hair to see if it was real, Denberg wrote. "He was definitely one of those folks that just thought differently and didn't want to be pigeonholed," Riley said. "He didn't want to be put into a box. He didn't want a day job. He didn't want to wear a suit and tie. You know, he didn't want to sit at a desk. He just wanted to share things with people, whether it's his thoughts or classical music or Radiohead." When Riley took over managing Aielli, he gave him a long leash. "I just thought we kind of have this magical person. Let's just let him run this. This won't last forever, and let's just have fun with it while we can," he said. McNulty characterized Aielli as Austin's favorite weird uncle. "He's the last of his kind," McNulty said. "Nobody could be more eloquent on air and still be a hot mess in the booth. He never wore headphones, so he was blissfully unaware of when he had dead air. That was one of the most endearing things about him. Every show was an adventure. He brought people together," Diaz said. After his illnesses took him off the air, a network of friends and fans rallied to make sure his needs were met. "People really cared about him," Diaz said. She was part of a group that signed up to bring food to Aielli. "In the end, he was fed by the community, spiritually and quite literally," she said. "He had a big, full, great life, and lots of people loved him," Riley said. "It may seem vain to regard a radio program as a medium for art, but I regard what I'm doing as an art form," Aielli told The Statesman in 1991. "It's always in process. Nothing is pre-planned. I almost never know what I'm going to start with until I walk in the door."